true track of money, to measure true money. When I say it like that, it reminds me of another great scientific revolution. It was John Harrison's invention of the clock, and the perfect maritime clock that could be used to calculate longitude on the ocean. Right before Harrison's clock, there's no way to calculate longitude. Before longitude, we didn't know where we were on the sea. It was a profound breakthrough in the history of navigation.
Michael Saylor goes into even more detail about the 21 rules of Bitcoin in today's video. He also talks about the most important rule of the 21 rules of BBC and how inflation and deflation have a huge effect on our economy, comparing perfect money to economic life. It talks about how Bitcoin can change businesses and even imagines a future where Apple is a big player in the banking industry. Michael also says that Bitcoin will grow astronomically and reach $10 million per coin.
Scientific method, the application of mathematics, disciplined logic, experimentation, engineering, trial and error. If we think about the scientific method applied to astronomy, right? The Copernican revolution and the breakthroughs in astronomy, they came because of a new instrument, right? Advances in optics allowed us to create a telescope. And before the telescope, before that technology, if you will, for 100,000 years, human beings looked up in the sky and they imagined they understood what was going on, and then they filled in the blanks with their superstition and their creativity, and they had their fears and hopes and dreams, and religion mixed in with observation, and they somehow got around to concluding that the universe revolved around the Earth. And if anybody suggested the universe did not revolve around the Earth, they were burned or canceled or ignored. And that's a horrific, wrong theory, and it causes you to make lots of mistakes in navigation. Maybe you'll never be able to master concepts that would be critical to advancing the civilization. And the scientific revolution applied to astronomy started with the technology. When that telescope was created, we could see the moons of Jupiter. When we could see the moons of Jupiter, we could start to calculate the impact, of the moons of Jupiter, and we could correlate those orbits to what we knew about Kepler's laws and mathematics. And somehow mathematics and physics were impacted by engineering and technology, and they resulted in a profound paradigm shift. And that paradigm shift was, maybe the universe doesn't revolve around the Earth. In fact, it seems quite obvious that that's not the way the universe works. And that catapulted us into an entirely new world. And what follows next is Newtonian physics. And after that, the invention of all of the mechanisms that made civilization possible. Economics is pseudoscience before Satoshi. It's a quasi-religious liberal art, and it's full of people's opinions and prejudices and biases. And in the absence of an instrument, and the instrument in this case is perfect money or proper money. If you don't have an instrument of proper money that doesn't have deflection, then you can't posit a properly functioning economy. And so all of the economists before Satoshi, they were trying to work out the laws of economics with seashells and glass beads and pieces of paper and credit instruments, and those are all imperfect instruments, right? They're so imperfect you could never create a beautiful or a perfect mechanism. And in the absence of the ability to manufacture the perfect mechanism, you can't move forward with scientific advance. So when I say, Bitcoin is singularity where science collides with economics, I mean that we invented an instrument, and the instrument was, it's a combination of, it was the math of cryptography, it was the engineering and the manufacturing of semiconductors, it was the computer science of the internet. And when you put the internet and semiconductors and you put cryptography together with a few insights, you can create this mechanism that we call Bitcoin, and that becomes a mechanism to keep true track of money, to measure true money.
Julian Assange, co-founder of WikiLeaks, is now free after a 14-year fight to avoid extradition to the U.S. In a final effort to secure his freedom, an anonymous Bitcoiner donated over 8 Bitcoin, which is worth about $500,000. This helped his family pay off the debt they incurred from his travel and settlement costs. On June 24, Assange was released from the high-security Belmarsh prison in the UK after reaching a plea agreement with U.S. authorities. Soon after his release, he took a private plane from London Airport to Seyr in the Northern Mariana Islands, which is U.S. territory. On June 26, Assange pleaded guilty to 1 count of violating the U.S. Espionage Act by leaking classified documents. The trip was planned to keep Assange from setting foot on American soil. Stella Assange's wife said that her husband's freedom comes with a price. He owes the Australian government $520,000 for the forest. Stella started a crowdfunding page to help the jailed founder pay off his debts after he returned to Australia. The Bitcoin price hit a 6-week low on June 24 before buyers stepped in and sent it back above $62,000 less than 24 hours later. Trader Joel noted that some buyer interest was returning at the lows, with the $60,000 zone acting as support. If #Bitcoin can lock in a lower timeframe higher low today, I think we run it back to $63,500 before the week is out, he wrote in a June 25 post on X. Above that, and Red Monday Green Week becomes a reality.
Right? In the modern world today, there are people in New York City that live in skyscrapers up 80 floors, and there are people that live in Africa in mud huts. And you can find certain peoples that are still stuck in Neolithic Stone Age cultures if you look hard enough. And you can find people that if the electricity was turned off to their elevator, they die. Right? And so very, very, very profound difference. I think you got to look at Bitcoin is this pure digital capital, which means it's the technology to capitalize a family, capitalize an individual, capitalize a corporation, capitalize an institution, a charity, a nonprofit, or a country or a city, or a university, right? We throw away throw around the word capitalize as a colloquialism, like, oh, you're going to capitalize on that? Okay, but if you think, and that's because economics has been pseudoscience and capital has been kind of a liberal arts type word. If you walked up to people on the street and said, what do you think capital is? And you asked them before Satoshi or before then it said Bitcoin, it's not clear what they would give you as an answer. They would, say something about Karl Marx said it was bad or capitalists to do something with it, but it's such a fuzzy word. But in the aftermath of Bitcoin, capital is economic energy, and I give you an asset to store economic energy. And now, if I can store economic energy in a digital asset, I can move the capital potentially at the speed of light at high frequency. So I can move it through space, right? Can you actually oscillate capital at 10 megahertz? You can oscillate, you can create a 10 megahertz signal, right? 10 kilohertz signal you could probably hear, right? So at certain frequencies, when you're vibrating energy, right? you get a result. Capital's never been something we could work with, we could program. So Bitcoin allows you to program and channel capital through time and space.
That RSI is a moving trend-following indicator that shows how much an asset is overbought or oversold at a certain level over a daily period. BTC paints an exciting picture in a June 24 post on X. The expert said that Bitcoin's daily RSI had not been this low in almost a year. In fact, the last time it was oversold was when BTC was trading at $26,000. Summer shakeout. In the past, Bitcoin has shown the strongest upward movement when the RSI is below 70, which means it is oversold. This can cause steady rebounds that can last for a long time before the BTC price gain becomes sustainable. Also said something about Bitcoin's drop below $60,000. Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, was so sad because he saw this as a chance to get more land. People who own Bitcoin should sell because it is falling. I'm going to buy more soon, said in a recent post on X. The famous author Kiyosaki said that people who are scared of Bitcoin crashes should sell their assets and keep their jobs during market downturns. If crashes scare you, sell your assets and hold on to your job, which is what most workers should do. Selling pressure from the now-defunct cryptocurrency exchange Mt. Gox contributed to the recent Bitcoin crash. On June 24, the trustee of Mt. Gox announced plans to repay the company's creditors in July. As part of the rehabilitation plan, creditors will receive repayments in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, which are estimated to be worth over $9 billion at current exchange rates. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.